Councillor Carlson and Councillor Patton and everybody that's on Zoom, we'll start as soon as Councillor Bark gets connected. He is having some technical difficulties. Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the regular council afternoon meeting of May the 10th. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel, youtube.com, District of Summerland. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Members of the public may access the meeting or participate in the following ways. Again, watch the meeting live or recorded on the youtube.com District of Summerland channel. If you wish to speak during the meeting and you haven't registered in advance, during the public comment opportunities, you may connect to the meeting by calling the meeting conference line at 778-907-2071 and entering meeting ID 506-489-9374 and passcode 485186. After I've provided everyone who has pre-registered with an opportunity to comment, the floor will be open to those on the conference line. Director of Corporate Services, are there any late items?
There are none, Your Worship.
Thank you. So I'll ask for approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Holmes and Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor. Thank you. And then we'll look at adopting the May 10th, to consider adoption of the April 26th afternoon council meeting minutes. Any changes in there? Okay, could I ask someone to bring that forward, please? Councillor Traynor, Councillor Van Alphen, all in favor? Thank you. No delegations. I will ask if there is anyone on the line for the first of the two public comment opportunities.
There's no one, Your Worship.
Thank you. So right on to business items 7.1, continuation of the quarterly update, strategic priorities for Q1, continuation from the April 26th regular council meeting, and I believe we're starting on slide 17 and over to the CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, you are correct. We are going to start right into the community resilience section of slides, and then we'll do the alternative energy, active lifestyles, and downtown vibrancy priority bubbles as well. The council will recall last time we worked our way through the infrastructure investment and good governance items already. So we'll continue on today in a similar format as we did last time, and taking questions along the way. And I think we have just a little over an hour to have the conversation.
Okay, thank you. So I think this is for our Director of Corporate Services. Are you up next? Oh, just a minute. I think Oh, I thought, oh, sorry, I had circled 17. So slide 20, this is for Brad. Oh, Brad is on Zoom now. Director of Development Services.
Yes, hi. I just want to make sure everyone's got a copy of the presentation slides in front of them as well, just so that everyone sees that.
Yes, we do, starting with the affordable supportive housing.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
For this item, we have been doing a lot of activities for the first quarter of the year for affordable housing. We had the presentation in March from the RDOS as well as our contractor company on a new regional housing needs assessment that was presented, and it was ultimately received by District Council for our future information, as well as in accordance with the Local Government Act, which was a requirement from the province to have a housing needs assessment in place by next year. This needs assessment has been posted to our website. It's found under planning and building. As well, council considered a new affordable housing project rezoning application for 60 units on Jubilee Road, and that rezoning was subsequently adopted by council in March. So that is a potential affordable housing project that will be happening hopefully soon in the near future, and also subject to potential further council discussions if there are variances required or not. For next steps, we will continue to support efforts by community organizations to bring unique affordable housing projects forward. There have been some preliminary engagement from other project proponents on other types of projects within the District of Summerland, and staff are supportive of these type of proposals as well to come forward and to address the affordable housing needs of the community. And then as well, we plan on working with BC Housing on any additional information that may be required from the community grants that were recently submitted from our community in January, this past January. Yeah, so I think I'm happy to take any questions on this slide.
Councillor Barkwell.
Do I understand the housing needs assessment that they project the growth of Summerland, I think, based on previous growth rates, and we in recent years we've exceeded that growth rate, so they assume a slower growth rate in the future than average, so that the long-term average comes out to be the same as previous long-term averages. They had a number there for the total projected housing units required, and and over the 10 years, was it? And then the amount built, and so kind of assumed that we would have, what was the number given this morning, 280 needed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did use projections, and unfortunately, the best data they had was from the 2016 census. The 2021 census is occurring right now, and so the data from that from the next census unfortunately wasn't included in the regional housing needs assessment. So what they did is basically projected out from the year 2016 to today's date of 2021 to determine if population trends in terms of the amount of immigration coming into our community was held constant since 2016. How many homes would have been required to be built within the last 5 years from 2016 to 2021? And then further from that, they project out for the next 5 years from 2021 to 2026 using that growth rate projection established, again, going back to that year in 2016. So unfortunately, I had to do a lot with the timing, and we didn't have the up-to-date numbers from 2021. And that might be something we want to actually consider in revising, on a regional lens level once we have new census data available as to where we are at with our immigration trends.
Yeah, I think my point is that I think it underestimates what our housing needs are. Our growth rate is higher maybe than historical, and wouldn't be necessarily realistic to think that it's now going to slow down, so it comes down to the same, below average, so it maintains that historical low average. Um,
Yeah, Councillor, and through the mayor, fair comments. I think that definitely the last few years, and especially right now, probably that long run trend is probably not a true picture of the housing affordability issues experiencing within the community right now, and maybe moving into the future as well. So.
yeah.
Any other questions on this slide? Okay, please carry on, Brad.
That's all I had for priority 3.1, and for priority 3.2, the Chamber of Commerce and industry engagement. We've been working actively with the Chamber of Commerce since the fall on establishing a new cooperative working relationship and also a 5-year plan for their operations. To date, at the tail end of last year, we've implemented a new fee-for-service agreement with the Chamber of Commerce for the next 2 years, so it includes 2021 and 2022, to provide tourism, marketing, and visitor center services to the district for $110,000 per year. A big negotiation item from the district side was to no longer have the linkage with Chamber of Commerce fees directly tied to the business license fee renewal system, and that's been something that has been changed now and also moving into the future. We've partnered with the Chamber recently on the development of a new rapid review of the outdoor patio expansion process in light of the new COVID-19 restrictions for restaurants and in-person dining, that only patios are permitted. So we wanted to create a process that would allow for ease of small business to take advantage of that. And there's been a few successfully taken advantage of that within the community, which is great to see. And as well, council's aware of that the district partnered with the Chamber of Commerce on the waiving of business license fees for the calendar year of 2021 in an effort to reduce the impact on small businesses due to the pandemic and the impact of the pandemic on revenues for small businesses. So next steps, we're planning to come forward soon to council with plan on the future of the visitor center building itself. We've reached a tentative agreement with the Chamber of Commerce on the management of this building moving forward, and that will be coming forward fairly soon. And then as well, we've got it on my work plan to complete a benchmark comparison of business license fees in before the budget starts happening in Q3 of this year. And happy to take any questions on this one.
Councillor Holmes has a question.
Yeah, thank you. The fee-for-service agreement includes quarterly reporting to council. I'm just wondering when we can expect the first one from them.
That's a great question. I think we'll have to follow up with Chamber and get back to you, Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Carlson. When the slides are up there, I have difficulties remembering to look over here. So go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if we are successful in transferring this to the chamber. What is it that the district needs to do for the visitor center building if it's no longer our building?
To answer that through the chair and through the mayor, we're not sure exactly in terms of any requirements for the district if there is a transfer between the district and the Chamber of Commerce, if any. Part of the arrangement that we've tentatively agreed to, and it is all tentative still, is that the chamber purchases the land from the district and maintains the building moving forward.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that that's my understanding, and I'm glad that's their understanding as well. Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? Okay, well, on to the next slide. And that's for Lori.
Good afternoon, Council. This one is on the cultural plan implementation. The cultural plan, finalized in 2016, highlights 5 strategic directions, which are outlined in your slide there. The cultural plan is being considered in planning projects such as the downtown plan, waterfront plan, and the recreation and health center project. The Arts and Cultural Center building renovation project is currently underway, and Brad will speak to this in an upcoming slide. However, once the renovations are completed, which is targeted for September, we're planning to implement programs and activities in that building for the fall. Staff have applied for a Healthy Communities Initiative grant for just under $200,000 for outdoor upgrades and an accessible community courtyard at the Arts and Cultural Center. If successful, we'll be looking to implement that project in the second half of this year. If we're not successful, we will work with Public Works to determine a strategy to construct a paved, accessible sidewalk from the main sidewalk to the lower level of the building. Staff have developed a lease and management agreement for the Arts and Cultural Center building for the Summerland Arts Council, which was issued on April 9th, and we hope to have this document executed in the upcoming weeks. Staff have developed Arts and Cultural Center room rental fees in consultation with the Arts Council, and we will have proposed rates for Council's consideration in the Fees and Charges Council report coming up later in the agenda. The 2021 banner program is underway with the theme of inclusion and diversity for this year. Staff are planning, prior to Center Stage Theatre reopening for community use, to discuss optimization and operational opportunities with School District 67 and the Arts Council. Staff will be working with the museum representatives on the procurement process for design drawings for the museum expansion project in the upcoming months, which includes a multi-purpose room for meetings and exhibits and a loading dock enclosure. And staff are also planning to come back to Council at the May 25th Council meeting to provide a more detailed update on the status of the cultural plan recommended actions. Thank you.
Any questions for our Director of Community Services? Okay. On to the next slide, which is the South Okanagan Agricultural Food Hub. And this is Brad again.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to reiterate to Council, although you're familiar with the mission here, the Food Hub's mission is to build a regional agri-food capacity and connect food and agri-tech entrepreneurs to the right resources so that they can develop, successfully commercialize, and market new agri-food products and technologies, and while potentially redefining the food system within the District of Summerland and also regionally. We see this as a potential project to help our agricultural communities and the existing food system to become more sustainable, ecological resilient, and economically robust. So Council might be familiar that we did present an update to Council in early March, the March 8th meeting, as to the status of this project. We were actively looking for grant funding at the time, and we still are looking for grant funding from higher levels of government that could be applicable to the project. We did subsequently actually apply for one grant in early March, but we were denied grant funding at the tail end of March for that specific program. Was the Supply Chain Resiliency Grant Program. We've also, though, continued to receive and requested additional letters of support from other key stakeholder organizations, such as the BC Fruit Growers Association has recently provided us one, as well as a few other organizations. And for next steps, we plan to present actually to the Regional District Board of Directors in the next meeting, May 20th. We're on their schedule to present at their Planning and Development Committee. And we are asking at the RDOS board for support from the regional level to this project, as well as consideration of this project in the next review of regional grant and aid projects expected in the fall with the budget season on their end. As well, following that RDOS discussion and perhaps potentially gaining their support, we plan on setting up some meetings with regional MLAs and MPs. We've prepared a 2-pager document with an overview of the project that we hope to disseminate to our higher level politicians that they can share internally to both the provincial and federal levels with regards to this project. We will still continue to seek out new grant submissions and at the same time potentially revising our business plan in order to perhaps fine-tune the plan to fall within a specific grant criteria. And then finally, we plan to we hope to establish a process to determine a location, ideally within the District of Summerland, but there may be the need to look farther afield than just the district boundary proper itself, and especially if we are truly considering this a regional project for the South Okanagan and Similkameen. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions on this project.
Councillor Van Elfen and then Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just more of a comment question. I don't know. I know on, believe May 17th, we're meeting with our neighbors, the PIB. Is this something that I think we should possibly want to have a conversation with our neighbors to the south? They may have some interest in this also.
Through the mayor, we could certainly add that to the agenda. I think you're probably right. They would have as much of an interest as we do in the long-term sort of food security and other activation of the potential here.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a couple of questions about the agenda. I thought it was more of, this initial one was more of a meet and greet, but I'm not really sure because most of us don't know any of the new council. But anyways, that's aside. I think that's a great idea because this is something that they have expressed interest in already. So bring them up to speed with the new council.
It may not have to be at the 17th. I apologize,
No,
Madam Mayor, if
no.
it's if that's the intent of a meet and greet, I appreciate it, but we could,
Yeah.
you could just start a conversation for future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
And
you.
when I was speaking to Chief Gabriel about 6 weeks ago, he said that he was very much looking forward to this and to, having them on a regular basis. So, I mean, that's the best way to build that bond between the two local governments. Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering, where's the Ministry of Agricultural at with the whole food hub concept in the province, and have we had any discussions with them lately?
Brad?
Yeah, through the chair, over to Councillor Holmes. We haven't had any recent conversations. The province has released their 2021 budget. We were expecting that that there would be another intake soon following that 2021 budget. There were hints previously in the fall, as well as leading into the new year, that there might be another intake process following the budget being set for this year. We haven't seen anything to date. I think we have heard rumblings fairly recently. I'll have to chat with Jane, our contractor, on this, that there might be opening up in September of this year. But you'll have to just take that with a grain of salt. I'll have to confirm with her.
Thank you, Brad. Graham, do you know anything further?
That's all I know at this time.
Yes.
Madam Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions on this slide? Okay, so we're on to 24, and this is one for our CAO.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. I could certainly speak to this one. I won't read all the information on the slide. I'm sure Council's had a chance to take a peek at that, but the key item, as indicated in the next steps, is to continue to work with representation on SOEX and the community conversations events being proposed in the communities of Summerland and Oliver. There has been significant work with SOEX, so that's the South Okanagan Similkameen Respect Network, and in support of, the South Okanagan Immigrant Community Services, rather. And just a note to Council on the goals of that group. It's to establish guidelines for community response to incidents of racism and hate in the community, and to connect individuals, groups affected by impacts of incidents of racism and hate to community support. So it's sort of both on the education and response side. Mayor Boot and I have both been participating in this group, and there has been some good actions as of late. One of the items that they've rolled out is actually a survey to sort of gauge the extent of the issue, and it has been very well subscribed. Going off memory, Madam Mayor, I think around 400 responses, something to that effect. And so the results of that survey are currently being evaluated and tabulated, and there'll be further discussions with the SOEX group, who themselves work with Resilience BC. And so lots of good work there. But the other item I wanted to point out, just as of recently, as May 6th, there was a release of a diversity video, second diversity video, and that was official launch there, and also a news release being done. And the video is very compelling and really, I think, speaks to the importance of diversity and the challenge of these issues. And I think it's showing good collaboration also with sort of regional chambers that have been occurring. And so the network is building, the partnerships are building, the message is getting out. Good work is being done by SOEX, and we're happy to continue to participate in it. And further updates will be coming to council as the work matures.
Any questions on this slide? Okay, so we will go on to 25, the solar and storage project. Jeremy, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I believe council is pretty up to date on this project, but just to hit a few highlights on the slide here, the project's currently in draft RFP stage for the EPC contractor. We do have that preliminary design, that 30% design as an attachment to that RFP in draft right now. That will help the bidders give a good competitive bid for Summerland to review. Now this is a Q1 update. So right now we're in Q2. So, but as of the end of Q1, we had the QEP RFP released. And as of today, that's been awarded. And regarding the site itself, we do have some material removal to do on site and are working towards that.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, thank you. I just wonder if I could get clarification on, so the 30% engineering that ATCO is doing now to be included in the engineering and procurement and construction phase, what does that 30% engineering include? I mean, how do you do, what engineering do you need to do in order to figure out what engineering you need to do?
Thank you, Councillor. Tammy can jump in as well if there's anything I leave out here, Tammy. But basically, we take the site footprint, the solar resource that's in Summerland. So we've had a solar monitoring station there on site for a year. So they take all of that information, plug it into a software package that calculates the solar panel spacing, et cetera, and sort of fit things on site. And we provide those details in the RFP so the bidders can kind of see this is what we think the layout might look like, and it sort of gives them something to sink their teeth into, and along with all of that data. Anything to add there, Tammy?
Thanks, Jeremy. And through the chair, just to add that it also includes the technical specifications of what we're looking for. So the minimum requirements from a technical perspective on what we're requiring bidders to bring forward to us.
Do you have a follow-up question to that? Okay, thank you. Any other questions on the solar and battery project? Okay, on to the next one, number 26. This is for Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This year, Council endorsed the second of two energy and emissions reduction plans, being the corporate plan. This plan, in conjunction with the community plan that was endorsed in 2020, offers a 5-year implementation with action items in support of the district and community efforts to achieve low carbon resilience. For 2021, the Community Climate Action Advisory Committee is well positioned to support education, engagement, and processes related to the implementation of the BC Energy Step Code, while the corporate plan includes the addition of several fleet electric vehicles, upgraded HVAC units in multiple district-owned buildings, and budget to procure LED upgrades in district-owned facilities. And I'm happy to take any questions, or Tammy is on the line as well.
Any questions? Okay, I think that we're good with that one. Back to Jeremy on the community energy strategy.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Yeah, really excited to talk to council about this one. Right now, this energy strategy is in internal review with the various other departments, but it is scheduled to go before council at the next council meeting end of May. I understand that council meeting's getting pretty full, so as long as we're not bumped or anything, we should have it in there. And just to jog everyone's memory, back in August 2020, we discussed sort of an outline for the report, and in there we covered voltage conversion, modern metering, distributed generation, battery energy storage system, et cetera, et cetera. So we sort of had that conversation then, and we used that for the basis of the report. So it does touch on all those items that we reviewed with council last year. So looking forward to that.
think we are here too. Councillor Barkle, did you have a question? No. Okay. I think we're all just going to wait until 2 weeks plus a day, and then we'll give you all kinds of questions after we've heard your presentation, Jeremy. So thank you for that. On to Lori again about the Community Recreation and Health Center proposal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Council is pretty much up to speed on this particular project, but I'll give you a quick summary. We are in year 2 of implementing plans for the replacement or renovation of the Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center, which is at end of life, and exploring the inclusion of a community primary healthcare center. Activities to date include a memorandum of understanding was executed with the District of Summerland, Division of Family Practice, Interior Health, and School District 67 signing on and participating on a steering committee. The facility needs assessment and community engagement project milestones were completed in January. Council confirmed the scope of Recreation Center core components and enhancements in February. A high-level proposed business case for a community primary healthcare center was developed and presented to Council in February. And at the same time, Council made a resolution to separate the recreation and primary health center feasibility studies for the next phase of work, understanding that the two components may come together at the end. The objectives and scope of work for the feasibility studies were drafted and reviewed by Council. The request for proposals closed on May 5th and proposal evaluations are currently underway. Staff met with the Assistant Deputy Minister, Ted Patterson, on April 9th, who provided some insights and feedback for consideration on the primary healthcare center as we move forward. And the next steps for 2021 is the implementation of the feasibility and site fit studies and further engagement with the Penticton Indian Band.
I don't see any hands raised, so right on to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, please.
The Parks and Recreation Master Plan was finalized in June 2018 and provides strategic direction to the District of Summerland regarding park use, facilities, and services over the following 10 years and includes over 140 recommendations. While there are several projects on the go, I've highlighted a few key projects in this update. The Parks and Recreation fees and charges market research, community group engagement and meetings with Council, and the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee has been completed, and a follow-up report will be presented to Council later this afternoon. A geotechnical assessment of the Lakeshore Racket Center has been completed to determine whether the property is suitable for constructing new tennis courts. The results have been submitted to the district. I'll just quickly highlight what we found out through that geotechnical assessment. Both test pits encountered approximately 1.2 meters of uncontrolled fill, such as bricks, rock, gravel, and some wood debris, and there could be some settlement issues. The results of the two holes were very similar. One encountered an old drainage field, which had higher groundwater, but the consultant noted that this could be addressed during construction if necessary. This indicates that it does not make a difference whether to use the north or the south section of the property should we want to move forward in those locations. The report outlines two options for mitigating the potential settlement issues during construction. Option 1 involves removal and replacement of the uncontrolled fill to approximately 1.2 meters below the existing ground level. Given the high groundwater table and the amount of fill, this option may be cost prohibitive. However, I have asked for them to come back with some costing on both of these options, some high level costing. Option 2 involves leveling and moisture compacting of the existing crush in the parking area and the addition of biaxial grid to mitigate the risks of differential settlement. If construction, moving forward with construction, it extends to any of the grassy areas on the site, the topsoil will need to be removed and replaced with 0.3 meters of structural fill. Given the existing courts don't show any excessive settlement or cracking and are likely on the same fill material as the parking lot, the consultant does not foresee serious issues with option 2. The report indicates even with the addition of the grid in option 2, no settlement cannot be guaranteed. The next steps for this project will be to obtain estimates for the court construction and discuss partnership opportunities with the Lakeshore Racquet Club. This information will come forward for council's consideration as part of the 2022 budget deliberations. As far as the dog park, a final report was issued in December, which outlines the results of community engagement and high-level costing for a fenced off-leash dog park for Powell Beach Park, Living Memorial Park, and the Summerland Rodeo Grounds. Council directed staff to further investigate Dale Meadows Sports Complex and Fosbury easement locations. Staff are currently working with a landscape architect to try to find a suitable space and layout at the Dale Meadows Sports Complex, which does not significantly impact the current park amenities and use. We had an on-site meeting with Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure staff at the Fosbury easement site in February, and no concerns were identified by the ministry staff. However, the ministry has now requested that we hold until further notice, as the ministry has received some letters of concern about this project. I've sent numerous requests to the ministry for an update and have not had a response yet. So I apologize for the delay of this coming back to council. However, I really wanted to come back with designs and costs for both these locations prior to presenting to council. I will continue to reach out to the ministry to get an update on whether or not we can continue to consider this location for this use. For the Peach Orchard Campground Pickleball Court Upgrades Project, staff have issued requests for quotes and have awarded this work for the court resurfacing and fencing. The work is currently slated for mid-August, which was the earliest time that Tomco could come on site. However, if they get an opening earlier in the year, we will look to mobilize at that time. And as Chris has mentioned in his slides at the last council meeting, flood mitigation works are underway with the pathway repairs near Rotary Beach, and Centennial Trail along Ineas Creek is still awaiting permit proposals and confirmation of EMBC funds. And that concludes that slide.
Councillor Holmes?
Yes, thank you. Just in regards to the dog park, I guess the question is, how long are we going to wait for the ministry and before just, deciding maybe we should just proceed with Dale Meadows, and especially if we decide that Dale Meadows is the preferred site anyways, what's the point of sitting around waiting for the ministry? So I'm just wondering at what, how patient should we be?
Is that a question that council needs to address, Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it could be. I was also just going to see if Lori had an initial response in terms of if she's been given any kind of indication from the ministry at all about if a response may be forthcoming. I know you've made efforts, Lori, but, or if you have perspective there to offer council before we conclude that.
Yeah, and I've had zero response as far as even an indication on when they're expecting an answer. So unfortunately, I don't know when we'll hear back from them. However, if council would wish for me to come forward, I should have information ready for council's consideration around Dale Meadows by the second meeting in June, if they would like me to come back then.
Thank you. Councillor Traynor, followed by Councillor Patton.
Yeah, I was going to make the same comment as Councillor Holmes. I would like to see information about the Dale Meadows location, because I mean, we could be waiting forever to hear back from the Ministry of Transportation. So, we've been waiting so long for this project. It's been going on forever. And so I think that if we've got information that will be ready in mid-June about one of the locations, I think that we should just hear it at council. So that was just the first comment I had. The second comment I had was, Lori, do you have an update on the Memorial Park Playground project at all?
Yeah, that's coming up on a future slide.
Oh, it is. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to speak in regards to what Councillor Holmes also said. is yesterday I had some folks come to my house to talk to me about the dog park and especially the Fosbury. And they were under the impression that it was a go on Fosbury. And I told them that we hadn't made any decisions, that no information has come forward. So I agree that if we're not getting anything from Ministry of Transport, let's move forward with Dale Meadows and see where we can get this dog park happening after all this time. So yeah, if it's coming in June, that's fine. Would be nice to see it come a little bit sooner, but it is what it is. So thank you.
Councillor Patton, would you care to make a resolution?
I guess, sure, I can, but I'm not sure if what I would that staff bring forward information in regards to Dale Meadows prior to mid-June. Can we do something like that?
I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, I think that is already in the works. That plan is already before us, but I was wondering if you would like to bring forward a resolution about waiting longer,
sure.
I guess, for Modi, for the Fosbury Road, or Fosbury Road location.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd like to present a motion that we do not wait for Ministry of Transportation, but move forward with Dale Meadows. How does that work, Madam Mayor?
Sounds good to me. I just checked with our Director of Corporate Services. Yes, she's nodding her head, and I think that Councillor Holmes is seconding that. Thank you, Councillor Patton, for bringing that forward.
Thank you.
And Councillor Holmes as well, and Councillor Traynor. It's just, I mean, how long do we have to wait? So, further discussion on this. Councillor Carlson.
I'm just wondering if you might read that motion so that I know what I'm voting on. I think that we need to be careful we don't say we are going to proceed with Dale Meadows. I think proceed is the wrong word. I think we need to discuss and look at the option that's been presented before we give people the false impression that we have, that we're building it.
Okay, so I'll ask Director of Corporate Services to read the motion, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So based on the information that you've just been speaking of, that council not wait for information from Moti regarding the Fosbury location for a dog park, and that information on the Dale Meadows location for the dog park be brought back to council for further discussion.
All good, Councillor Carlson? Okay, good.
That's great, thank you.
Okay, further discussion on this? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much. There you go, Lori. One last thing that you have to follow up on. But you're not off the hook. Next one is the arena assessment.
Thank you. The arena condition assessment is a comprehensive review of the structural integrity, mechanical systems, electrical systems, building envelope, and energy efficiencies of the Summerland Arena Complex. We were recently notified that we were successful in receiving partial funds of $10,000 through the Infrastructure Planning Grant Program for this project. We are planning to implement the procurement process and the project in Q3. And I'll just highlight that the project will also include an asset cycle plan. It will identify requirements to ensure compliance with municipal and provincial code requirements. And it will outline required capital upgrades, timing, and costs over the next 10 years for the arena. Thank you.
Don't see any hands up. So we can go on to the next slide, which is the Memorial Park Playground.
The replacement of the older playground equipment at Memorial Park was identified by Council as a priority for 2021, and Council provided direction to construct an innovative destination playground for our community. Through the engagement with local service clubs and organizations, confirmed project partners include the Summerland Credit Union with funding support of $5,000 to $10,000 and potentially more. The Kinsman Club has secured $10,000 in grant funds to support this project with the understanding that it will have accessibility components to the project. And that grant funding is hinging on that. And they would also like to provide volunteer labor. The Rotary Club is very interested in being a partner, but unfortunately do not have any funds to contribute at this time, but they do want to remain to be involved. And the Summerland Firefighters Association is interested in participating by providing volunteer labor support. So the next step is to initiate the procurement process, and it is in the queue with our procurement department to get this issued. And we've discussed implementing a two-step process where we develop and implement an RFP and select a preferred playground proponent that we want to work with. And then we would work with that proponent to design and build a playground of our choice, which will allow us opportunity to custom design our playground with the input from staff, project partners, and from council. And we could also look at an opportunity to implement community input if council would like to see community engagement as part of this project. After the design is confirmed, we would negotiate a final contract with the proponent within the budget. The construction timeline for this project is targeted for Q3, but that would be dependent on the contractor availability and how quickly the playground products could be delivered. That timeline would probably be set out from what we hear when we go out for RFP. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Council? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question through to Lori, if I may. Any update on the fitness equipment?
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. Yeah, we had a bit of a delay. We wanted to get that in first thing in the spring. However, there were hazard trees identified in that location that I don't know if you've been, council's been by the park lately, but some big trees had to get removed from that area, which has just recently been cleaned out. And so the concrete pad where we're putting the fitness equipment has just been power washed, and the next step will be to put a surface coating on that and install the equipment. So I'm hoping that can happen in the next month.
Thank you, Lori.
Councillor Traynor.
Yeah, my question is for Lori. Lori, could you remind us of the budget for this project again?
For the Memorial Park?
Yeah.
250,000 is committed from council, and then we have the additional funds from the service clubs to add to that.
Okay, great. That's a good amount. Hopefully we can get something really nice for that. Thank you.
Councillor Carlson.
There are components like the swings and the newer, smaller playground. I'm just wondering if the intention would be to replace the entire Memorial Park and then things that are able to be moved to other locations like Peach Orchard Beach or the campground, if that was something staff has been discussing as well.
Yeah, through the mayor, we'll include that in our RFP and put that back out to the people bidding on the project to say that option is available. So we could look at working around the equipment, the newer equipment, or we could look at moving and relocating. So we'll be reaching out to those experts in the playground industry to come back to us with suggestions for our consideration around that.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question through to Lori. So we have some service organizations that are willing to put some money forward. Are private individuals also, like members of our community that want to possibly leave money? Are they welcome to contact you?
I'll take anybody's money.
Thank you, Lori.
Like a community contribution, right?
I,
Yes.
I have not actively engaged a full-blown fundraising campaign for this project, but if there are people interested in donating, I'll give out my card and welcome them to my office.
Any other questions? Okay, looks like we're good for that, Lori. We'll send everyone your way. Slide 32 is the downtown neighborhood plan, and that's back to the Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just start my video. There you go. I'm before you today to talk about an update to our downtown neighborhood plan. As council's aware, they've established a downtown neighborhood plan task force. This was established last fall, and we have a number of representatives for key stakeholder organizations in the community, as well as residents of Summerland and representatives of the downtown business community on this task force committee. We've been meeting monthly since the enactment of that task force to define a scope of work for a proposed new downtown neighborhood plan. And the plan was to provide a clear direction and guidance for the District of Summerland on the future of the Summerland's downtown. The terms of reference of the task force provided by council included a target date of an 18-month timeline, and we are following that 18-month timeline starting in January of 2021, and expecting hopefully a plan to be considered for adoption by council in June of next year. So activity to date, we've been, like I said, meeting monthly, trying to define the scope of the project, of what are the needs of the community to address in the downtown and how we want to plan for the future in the downtown neighborhood. We've also had a presentation from Ron Matuzzi. He's a former director of planning, as well as a former chief administrative officer from the city of Kelowna. He walked us through a case study example that they utilized within the city of Kelowna for their downtown planning effort, which was really informative for us as a group, I felt. And we got a lot of good knowledge and probably best practice for us to move forward with our downtown neighborhood plan. And then since that time, we've been narrowing down the proposed request for proposals, which is actually on the agenda for tonight for consideration of council and for us to move forward with release of an RFP for a planning consultant, which is what we have in the budget. We have roughly $100,000 in the budget as part of that scope of work. Next steps is, like I mentioned, release of that request for proposals, and then hopefully award the planning project. We're targeting around mid-June to the winning proponent, maybe mid to late June. And then following that and initial discussions with the committee, we want to start a much broader community engagement effort that would include the broader community as well as the task force. And I'm happy to take any questions on this item.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, thank you. Not a question, but just a point that the presentation from Ron Matuzzi, I think it really helped frame the discussion and focus us on the task at hand. Before that, I think different members of the task force had different ideas, but that talk from Ron Matuzzi really focused us. And I really, if any members of council haven't watched it yet, because it was recorded, I really encourage everybody to watch it, because I think it'll help all of us really understand what we're trying to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Brad can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Councillor Holmes that recommended we have Mr. Matuzzi come in and present to us, and it was invaluable. I think it opened up a lot of eyes around the table. I think his timeline was something along 10 to 20 year project. This isn't something, there's not, you know, you'll hear people say, oh, let's get shovels in the ground and let's get going. There's a lot of work to be done here. And I truly do appreciate Mr. Matuzzi's presentation because it was definitely eye-opening for sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just seeing if I can see Doug. No, he doesn't have his hand up either. You're all good, Councillor Patton?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I was, after hearing Councillor Holmes and Van Elpen, I guess my question would be to our Director of Development Services was, what was the task force opinions in regarding to the monies being spent on, that much money being spent on a consultant, I guess? Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair to respond to that question to Councillor Patton. I think there was a mixed opinion. We did have some representation from the Chamber of Commerce that had concerns with regards to the spending of that much amount of money. You know, that's just within scope of the budget. You know, that's not necessarily what will come through the RFP process, so it could come under budget. Although this is a large scope planning project, there's many elements of it, and that's you know, included in the proposed scope of work that's attached to the agenda for tonight's meeting. There's many elements of the infrastructure. There's land use side. There's also placemaking and also a part of the funding that is in the budget. I think $50,000 of that amount was specifically allocated towards a revitalization plan for Memorial Park, which was dedicated from the Parks and Recreation Master Plan as an implementation project. So that was graciously provided from the Recreation Department towards this project because they were endeavoring to see the Memorial Park future plan to be included into a much broader discussion about the future of the whole downtown area. And how it links into that downtown area is going to be key. So part of that, the scope of work includes that revitalization plan for Memorial Park, and we see a lot of engagement requirement at the staff level in moving forward with this project. And with all the various competing priorities being presented today, it's tough for staff to move forward with all of these items. And do a proper job of it without having resources in support of this type of scale of project. So hopefully that can help alleviate your concerns. But the task force was unanimous in moving forward with a request for proposal process following that initial discussion.
Thank you so much.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions, we'll move on to the Arts and Culture Center renovation.
Oh, that's myself again. Item 6.2, the Arts and Cultural Center renovation project. We did provide some additional funding back in February with council that were funded from reserve to proceed with this renovation project. Following that additional funding being allocated to the project, we went forward with the award of their project to Sawchuck Developments, and construction was initiated in late March. We also have a temporary arrangement, lease arrangement with the art gallery, and as well for them to be located within the municipal hall. And I know Lori has also negotiated on behalf of the district the use of the building moving forward once the renovation is complete with the art gallery. Lori already mentioned we did apply for the additional scope of work over and above our funding amount that we're waiting to see if we were successful with for completion of exterior landscape improvements to improve exterior accessibility to the building, and we're hopeful that we're successful with that grant application. So we're continually completing work right now with the building. We're currently on schedule still for the end of August 2021 for completion. If that we are successful with that grant submission, we're going to probably submit a change order for a large amount to Sawchuck to complete that additional work for the exterior, as it was an additionally priced item with Sawchuck, and hopefully tack that on to the scope of this project, which would be a huge benefit, I think, to the community. And with that, I'm hoping to pass it on to any questions, I guess, if council has any.
Okay, that one looks good. Your last one is the Main Street Outdoor Patio Design Guidelines.
So this is an item that has been identified in the council strategic priorities, although it is been somewhat tied to the larger downtown planning scope of work. There has been the need to determine some design guidelines for outdoor patios within the Main Street area, as well as Victoria Road. So this has been kind of teamed along, like I said, with the downtown plan. However, we have recently completed some work in this area with the new rapid review process for outdoor patio approvals in response to the COVID-19 restrictions. That has something that was fast-tracked forward prior to the design and development of any guidelines. But we do hope to continue including this in our discussions with the downtown task force moving forward.
Questions on this one? I just have one question. It's titled Main Street. You mentioned Victoria Road as well. Could all of every area, like Henry Avenue, where there's a patio now too, be included in that title, just like downtown outdoor patio design? I don't know what it might be, but just not to exclude anyone. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, well, maybe that was that establishment's decision because of the COVID restrictions, and it wouldn't be something that they would want to continue on. But I think that if we can be as inclusive as we can, then perhaps that's the way to go.
We can definitely change the heading for this priority. If council so directs us to do that, it'd be fine.
Graham has his hand raised.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to point out, it's an interesting picture because this also shows, even going beyond sort of the rapid review of people that want patios. As we know, the beanery here in this picture had a patio, but wanted to do more with it. And so this picture is a little bit of an older picture because you see the concrete garbage can and then the permanent planter. And both of those were something that the beanery were hoping to see removed, and I think had perhaps even raised in downtown vibrancy conversations. And our public works staff were able to go out there and remove those to give them more table space. And then the garbage can ended up being on top of an old light standard base. And when they took that off, they thought, oh boy, what do we do with that? And the electrical utility director was out there, I think, with his staff 5:30 in the morning the next day, grinding that off. And everything, I think, within about a 24-hour period, including they added additional tables along that alleyway and a barrier with signal sort of cone, so to keep people safe there. So I just think even to point out, beyond those that just for the sake of COVID and the patio, I'm really proud that staff were very responsive to see and enhancements also where they make sense quickly for those that even had patios as such as the beanery in this picture.
Thank you, Graham. Yeah, I think that it's such a rapid response to the rapid response review process. Really speaks well to your staff. I did want to mention something. Oh yeah, when you were talking about what you found under the garbage can after that was moved, or the receptacle there, it's kind of like painting one room in your house, right? It's like, ooh, that one looks kind of shabby too. Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Back to what you were saying, I too would like to see this heading changed to, Summerland outdoor patio design. We have Rosedale Avenue, we got Zia Stonehouse that just completed their patio. We've got the Perch that have expanded to their patio. So I think it should encompass all of Summerland.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the individual slides, and now Graham is going to give us a summary of where we're at with various things in our strategic priorities.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, just this last slide, it's the beginning of sort of a heat map, a bit of a dashboard that we'll continue to develop as time goes on with these quarterly updates. Obviously green things on track and clear path ahead. Some of the pink doesn't necessarily mean off track, but perhaps some decisions needing to be made, or in some cases we're waiting for grant funding, for example. So we'll continue to monitor these priorities. As you know, we've built it into kind of an operational rhythm on a quarterly basis. We'll continue to track the elements and be able to report on them. And I think also just to state that council's priorities are our priorities in the administration here, and performance contracts of our senior management team and other staff will be tied to the priorities of council in terms of the work that they're working on as well. And certainly the overarching work of the district, whether we're talking infrastructure or community resilience or active lifestyles, all the work of staff tie in one way or another to these priorities. And I think it shows really good alignment to make sure that we're focused on the priorities of the council and reporting on them. And then, of course, being accountable to their delivery, even and through our performance agreements for staff that are being developed this year.
Great. Any questions or comments on this particular slide, this summary? Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just question through to our CEO. I don't see anywhere on here the eco-village concept. Is that something you're doing in your spare time?
Through the mayor, yeah, certainly it is something we're doing in our spare time at the moment, and I'm glad you raised it, because we'll come back in June with additional details for council and to be able to start the decision-making process. Part of that decision-making process, we do want to highlight some elements in the priorities chart that we might need to slow down or pause in order to accommodate that. If it does move forward, that's a big lift. It's an exciting one. And I suppose where it's sort of caught right now is in relation to the solar project and the battery storage project that we talked about today. But really, if it starts to get legs, it's merits its own priority, as it will take a very significant amount of work and coordination amongst staff at various levels.
Yeah, thank you for noticing that that wasn't on there yet. We've been talking about it, but it's not there yet. Okay, any other questions or comments? Did you have something else to add, Councillor Van Alphen? No. Okay. Well, I said it all, but I said it before, but thank you so much, CAO Stat and your senior management team. I know that this took a lot of work, but it's very good to see all of the things that are going on. And when Councillor Van Alphen brought forward the eco-village not being on there, we as a council, as you know, need to be cognizant of the fact that if we're adding something to that is, a big project, we might have to slow down something, as you say, or pushed things aside for a bit of time. But it's really great to have the first of the quarterly updates. I would think that all of council, but certainly I will only speak for myself. It's really nice to see what's happening operationally, and as we're moving things forward on our strategic priorities. So thank you for that. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just adding to that, is there a possibility that we could put this strategic priority project initiative, the update, in our newsletter? Possibly, just so the public is aware that there's a lot of stuff going on here at City Hall, and I don't think half of the public has any idea how busy our CAO staff is. So I just think it would be something that would be really beneficial to the public to see this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So I know that there's, every month there are updates, but is it possible to have like an overview summary included? I'm not sure how much room there might be for the next June newsletter, but you know, I think that it should be highlighted how much work is, how much time and work is going into getting the services and keeping things moving along here at the district. Celebrate our successes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we could certainly put some reference into the work that is being done and point people maybe to Facebook. One of the things that we have been doing on this initiative is our Facebook posts actually reference the meeting times of the various bubbles that are being discussed. So knowing that people are busy working and making a living out there and raising kids, we know maybe there's an interest in active lifestyles, but not as much on every other. So our Facebook post will say, you know, if you're interested in active lifestyles, go to 2101 on the YouTube video or whatever, so that people can really take that, you know, laser focus. But I think if we could reference, looking at my corporate officer here, reference something in the newsletter about the work being done, point back to the sort of website, Facebook opportunity, so people can track the information carefully, and ideally it does become a bit of a communications piece back to the community, who I'm sure have an interest in the work of the district as well.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. Okay, so we've come to the end of 7.1, our quarterly update. On to 7.2, the Summerland Sunday Market Special Event Temporary Road Closure, and I will turn this over to our Director of Works and Infrastructure, Chris Johnson.
Madam Mayor, sorry to interrupt. May I please excuse myself? I do have a pecuniary interest.
Yes, thank you. Well done. And we are right on time too. So Chris, whenever you're ready to go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as most of you are familiar, the Rotary held a public market in Sundays in downtown Summerland during the summer months from 2015 to 2019, but did not proceed last year. In its place, Coldbury Community was approved to use a portion of the Summerland Arena parking lot to host a similar Sunday market from mid-June to late September. Council approved a rental fee of $12 per hour for last year's event, which is also being recommended for the application in this report. So this year, Coldbury Community would like to move the Sunday market back to Main Street between Victoria Road and Kelly Avenue, and is seeking district approval for the reoccurring road closure that's required for that event. The event would be similar to as it was in the past. The road would be closed from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. and the market would run from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. each Sunday starting June 20th and ending September 26th. So the proposed road closure was circulated to the Fire Department, RCMP, and Works and Infrastructure Departments with no objections, provided a few conditions were met, which include a 6-meter unobstructed passage through the area for emergency vehicles, that the Henry Avenue and Main Street intersection remain unobstructed in all directions, other than the removable barricades that would be used to close this intersection, and that barricades at all other traffic points be removable to allow emergency vehicles through that area if required. A license of occupation is recommended, as was entered into with the Rotary for previous events, which would outline items that are related to the event and would be ultimately in agreement with this applicant. So with that, staff recommend approval of this application and that the district enter into a license of occupation agreement with Coalbury Community for this recurring event. So if there are any questions from council, I'll be happy to answer them now.
Okay, council questions? Would someone like to bring forward a motion, please? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That the special event temporary road sidewalk or parking stall closure application to close Main Street from Kelly Avenue to Victoria Road on Sundays, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. from June 20th, 2021 to September 26, 2021, as requested by Coalbury Community to hold the Summerland Sunday Market, be approved. And that an hourly rental fee of $12 be charged for the duration of 2021 Summerland Sunday Market. And that the district enter into a license of occupation with Coalbury Community for the Summerland Sunday Market for the 2021 season.
Thank you, Councillor Patton, seconded by Councillor Traynor. Any further discussion on this? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you. And it's time for a break. It's about 2:21. How about if we break until 2:35? Does that work for you, Director of Corporate Services? Good. Okay. So Councillor Van Elfen, welcome back. We're taking a break until 2:35.